Good morning. Good morning. So what's on the agenda today? Well, today I'm doing the Scraping with Scraps challenge where we basically pull stuff off our shelves and we try to come up with an aquascape out of stuff we already have. Yeah, I've seen a few of those on YouTube, but how's that different from what you normally do? Well, yeah, normally I buy something. You know, I mean, the spirit of the challenge is not to buy anything, to really use stuff you already have on hand. Well, I saw Alex from Tank Tested and the King of DIY used homemade tanks. Are you doing something like that? No, I don't do that stuff. AquaPro's glued a dinosaur to the side of his tank. Are you doing something like that? Okay, no, I don't think so. I think this is gonna suck. Back in the drawer, Mr. Sharp. I've got a few ideas. Don't quote Downton Abbey to me, asshole. Just go make your tank. Look, I'm gonna do some stuff I've never done before. It'll make it more challenging, okay? A couple of things I've just never tried. It'll work. Oh, I'm sure it will be just fine and there will be no problems whatsoever. Thanks for your vote of confidence. And it's all coming up right after this. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec, and this is a little bit of a spoiler. I'm kind of showing you what it looks like right away. At least for now, because there's a feature I haven't turned on yet. And whether or not it works is kind of the surprise. It'll be both a surprise for me and a surprise for you. This is going to be quite a long video. I went into a lot of detail and I kind of shared with you guys everything that happened along the way. So I've included some time codes for those of you that do not feel like watching it all, and I don't blame you. Rachel O'Leary started this Scraping with Scraps challenge, or scrapscape challenge. There's a couple of hashtags floating around to kind of let people be aware. And you can search on those if you want to see more of these, probably on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. If you're at all aware of this challenge, you already know kind of the gist of the whole thing. And basically you're using materials that you already have. People like myself that have like a lot of aquascaping stuff and just aquarium stuff in general around have done different things to kind of make it a little bit more difficult with themselves. Rachel was pulling stuff off the floor, literally sweeping up sand off the floor and using it. For myself, I did a couple of things that I've never done before. One, the background of this is spray painted on. I've never done a spray paint background before, and that was a lot better than I thought it would be. Another thing that I did that I've never done before is a sand waterfall. This actually is supposed to be a sand waterfall. I haven't turned it on because I wanted to get a couple of shots of it nice and clean before this thing shoots sand everywhere and it's just a huge fail. I have a feeling it's going to be really disappointing. But be sure to vote either in the comments down below, or maybe I can make a poll on one of those little things. And tell me if you think the waterfall is going to work. I'm going to keep that to the end, so you'll have plenty of time to think about it. And I've kind of designed this so that if it doesn't work, or long term, if it doesn't work or something like that, I can just turn it off and enjoy like a nice mountain here in the middle. I did make this entirely out of stuff that I have in my garage. A lot of this is recycled stuff from a tank I built for my sister. Like the light is an Up Aqua light, and the filter, you'll see that in a little bit, that's an Up Aqua filter. That both of those things came off her old aquarium. The tank's one that I've set up, and then I think I set it up for a quarantine tank and took it down and put it on the shelf and never used it. All the rocks and stuff. There are a couple of new things, like this thing at the bottom. That is new, but I bought it a long time ago and never used it. You'll see it in a Aqua Shopper unboxing from last year. I had got it with something else in mind, but I never ended up using it for that, and it was on my scrap pile. All the plants in here came from another tank, and you'll see all that in a little bit. Never done a sand waterfall, did not turn this on and try it, or anything to see if it's going to work, so that's a mystery. So let's go back in time, a whopping 4 days, and see where this all started. Yes, 4 days. It took quite a while. Let's go. Welcome to my garage. I'm trying to shoot very carefully so you don't see just the enormity of the mess that's in here. But I have a number of aquariums here. I've got a little 2-gallon. It's kind of neat, really small. Another little 2-gallon spec. Of course, the old aquaponics thing. Probably won't break that out again. Over here I got a 55 and some more specs inside, and oh Lord. If you haven't seen the video for the Pecktec water change assistant, that's what this is. And I actually have a plan for this, but that's for later. That's not going to be this video. Yeah, so up here we've got a couple more spec 5 gallons. That's the one from work. I think that's my original one, from the old video. This is kind of my spec graveyard, I suppose. And I've got a bunch of lights in here, old lights, some that I made. Some of these old fluorescents, they're actually probably all right still. Then down here, we've got 3 tanks. We got like a little 5-gallon tank. It's like a lid of some sort. Got this thing, which looks kind of like a little 7-gallon tank. I set this up for my sister a while back, and I ended up switching it out with a 10-gallon. Then I got a 10-gallon tank. It looks like got a lid for it up here. This might be what I go for, just so I have enough to work with. Let's see though. Down here in the aquascaping supplies, as you can see, I don't have things on the floor like Rachel did, so I can't go digging underneath my water heater for anything. But I do have it piled up on a shelf. And this is a mixture. There's some newer stuff that I probably won't use. It's too big anyway. We got lots of old stuff too. I'm kind of hesitant to use some of this stuff just because it came out of my tanks for a reason. Some of this is new, or newish. I definitely have a lot of discarded things. I got some kind of fun things too. Wonder if I could use it. Bring the hand back. Maybe boot up here. Underneath here, let's see. Got some Amazonia. This is unopened, so I guess that's disqualified right off the bat. I got sand. Supernaturals. That's kind of a really kind of expensive sand, but it's open, unused, so or partially used, so it qualifies. This is aragonite, mystery dirt in here. What we got? Tubes. And it looks like, yep, that's what I've got. So, fluval stratum. A tiny little handful of gravel. My background, I guess. Huh. Didn't even know that was there. See, underneath here, what I have for supplies. It's all my working with dirt stuff. Planting things. Maybe over here. Okay, let's see what's in the bin. Okay, this is a bin of miscellaneous things. A little breeder box. Oh, that was the sponge filter that I pulled off to put on the. I pulled off these sponge filters for a couple of different projects. One was to put on the Fluval Flora as a pre-filter. It's kind of giving me an idea, though. I always wanted to do one of those waterfalls. You know, like the little sand waterfalls. Wonder if I think I've got a single one of these upstairs. If that's the case, this would be perfect for that. And I've got sand too, real fine sand. Ooh, I got an idea brewing. I got idea brewing now. If that doesn't work, I think, yeah, I got tons of pipe and stuff underneath here. This is that planting substrate for aquaponics. Lid back on that. What do we got right here? Oh, this is all air stuff. We've got another box of air stuff upstairs. Alright, so I should have plenty of tubing and things like that. Hopefully I got a little pump to use. And under here, some more filters. Some used filters. Okay. I do have this 3-gallon also. Hey, I could throw an FX4 on there. Anyway, I got this 3-gallon also, and I just took this down. I don't think I'm ready to put this back up yet. I'd much rather experiment with something else. I got this thing I bought but I never used. Kind of a little artificial barrier. That might be nice for a sand waterfall though. I got all kinds of stone. Most of this I think is dragon stone. There's some other stuff mixed in. I got like big pieces, small pieces, kind of not big and not small pieces. A lot of this was pulled aside for the hardscaping presentation I never got to do. Ooh, tell you what, I'm tempted by this 5-gallon tank, but I don't like the lid that's on it. 10-gallon would be nice. I have to go see if I have a stand for it. Oh, and I need to make a space. My biggest handicap right now is not supplies at all, or time, but space. Time and space. Where do I put this when I've got an aquarium in every square inch of the house that can fit one already? I guess it's time to clean it a little bit. I'll be back. Okay, so I need to go ahead and make room and make sure I'm going to want to set some of this up in place. I want to make sure I have enough room, so it's probably time to go ahead and get rid of this. I think what I'm going to do, I might want to use some of these plants. There's a fair amount of algae and stuff in there, so I might not want to use this. So I'm fairly certain I'll be bringing algae with me. But what I might do, I'm going to just move this someplace else for now, and then we'll see. So in here, I have miscellaneous parts. Mostly, a lot of it's new stuff. My aquarium box overflow stuff, like I got my botanicals. You've seen me pull this out before. Or my botanicals up here. These are all hot, different kinds of hides. I've got my CO2 leftover stuff in there. And then here, more air stuff. So let's look in that. Sponge filter. Oh yes, this is what I was thinking of. So what I'm thinking is I could take this, pull this off. Yeah, okay. Put this under the sand. Attach a air to this. Send the sand up through here and then out the top. Then have it flow back down. Make a sand waterfall. I always wanted to try one of those. This might be what I use for it. I'll put this on here for now. What else is in here? Ooh, I got a little pump. Alright. I think I have another pump too. Oh, and here's a smaller one. If I want to do that on a really super small scale. This doesn't go up very high, so I don't think it's a very good candidate. Alright. More stuff. Okay, I made a hole, a little tiny hole. This thing's gonna have to go. I've got a spot for it. But look what I came up with. I found a stand under a bunch of stuff in the garage. So I actually have a dedicated 10-gallon stand that's legit for a 10-gallon tank. And a 10-gallon tank that will fit once that's removed. Right here next to where I'm working now. Upstairs. Alright. Alright, so we're kind of in place. This thing's been sitting for years. So I'm going to give it a quick wipe down so it's nice and clean. Ish. No point in dealing with any dust if you don't have to, right? Okay, so now it's time to work on the aquascape itself. I blacked out the background, and I've never done that before. I think I like it. Boy, it's a lot easier. I won't have it coming up. We don't have to tape it down or anything. It's the first time I've ever tried that, and I don't know why, but I'm really happy with it so far. Okay, so I want to try something else I've never tried before, and that is to make a waterfall. I'm using this sponge filter mechanism to make it, and I actually I kind of did a test run with this. Now, I didn't actually make it work, and I'm real nervous that it won't work at all. Surely this tube, with all the holes in it, it's open at the end, it's got openings all over the sides. Surely this won't get clogged and the sand will shoot up it. It might need a stronger pump than what I've got here. I've got actually a great number of air pumps, because at one point I was going to go to all air pumps for most of my filters. Like, I was going to change all my filtrations to air pumps, but usually they're a little loud and I don't like to have them on while I'm working. So I haven't done that yet. And I haven't actually decided on a proper filter for this. It'll probably be like an aqua clear or something like that, you know, something like I've got on this thing. I have a feeling this is going to be a really long video because I'm just discovering all this crap that I've got sitting around. Okay, so I practiced with this a little bit downstairs. And my original idea was I was going to have it on the side. I was going to do a waterfall like on this side, and then you know, maybe aquascape around on the other side. But what I think would be more neat is to do it right in the middle. And I don't tend to do symmetrical aquascapes like that. I like to do real asymmetrical aquascapes and compositions. But this time I'm going to go right for the middle, and then I'm going to try to jungle out the sides using the plants from this aquarium over here. After I pull out the great deal of algae that's in there. Hopefully they look good enough to make this look neat. But I'm going to do kind of make it a centerpiece. And the plan is that if this doesn't work, then I'll just put some Anubis there, and the sand will kind of give the impression of a little pathway through the forest. So I'm kind of backed up either way. I'm going to make a little wall of rocks right here. I think I could probably do it where the rocks stayed. Like, I think I could wedge them in there to where it would stay and be pretty safe, but I'm going to aquascape it here and move it over here. So what I thought I would do, I've got this I've got this little bottle of silicone, and yes, it's used. I try to cap it, and I guess the pressure, after it dried, the pressure like broke the cap right off the top, which is interesting. But it's still gooey in here, so I think this will work. I'm going to use this little bottle of silicone to help me secure the rocks in here. After I play with them a little bit, make sure I get the placement to where I want. I'm not going to use a lot. I'm going to use as little of this as possible because I don't want it to show. I think that would be ugly. But because of that, I'm going to silicone them in here, and then I'll have to wait a little bit while it dries. I've got this piece. If you watched my Aqua Shopper videos, I got this a while back, but I never implemented it into any aquascapes. I might use this to sort of be a border with the sand. It's a little bit more of a border than I actually need, but I might have this kind of border off the sand a little bit and kind of give me an idea of where to put the sand versus the other substrates. But hopefully that'll help keep the substrate from working its way in there, especially right where the waterfall needs to be picking up new sand. So here on the sides, I have these are specimen containers that are a little cracked. I don't actually know if this one's cracked or not, but this one's definitely cracked and kind of messed up. So I use this is my medium size bits of dragonstone. These are really small bits of dragonstone, and then I've got some larger pieces down underneath here where you can't see it. Alright, I'm going to move the camera down and we'll see what we can come up with. This has a little airline coming out, so we'll just kind of have to acknowledge that. This goes up, so I can make this a little bit taller if I need to. Alright, now let me kind of feel out what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and put some sand in there so I'm not messing up the glass while I'm placing the rocks and stuff. Kind of get an idea for how much sand I have. Just kind of fill in this area. It's like I should have plenty of sand. Okay, you can stop now. Let's spread this out a little bit. I'm going to leave the top of this open so I can see where it is. Looks like this will be good. Like, if I don't like the look of this little thing here, it doesn't quite fit, right? But if I don't like the look of it, I can always pull it out after I've got the substrates kind of separated. But Probably would be a good idea to leave it in. It's going to be mostly buried, so you'll just see a little bit of it. But might be a good idea to leave it in just to keep that other substrates from getting mingled amongst each other. All right, now I've got enough sand in there, I think, to make it safe. This really didn't leave me with a whole lot of area to work with, so let's get the bigger pieces in. This piece here is going to be kind of an anchor piece because it's real flat on the bottom, so I know I can get this pretty stable. Kind of what I'm looking to do is sort of wedge something nice and flat, like this one's got a nice flat surface to it. I mean, for dragonstone anyway. But it's real empty under here, so I can kind of pile it, the sand can kind of pile up on there. Real different colors, hopefully that's not a big deal. Try this, go back to this one again. It'd be cool if I could just kind of get it like that. Waiting to see what I need to do. I think I can fill in some of these gaps with these smaller pieces. I've got this too. This is a really interesting piece. See, it's got a nice big hole in it, and I'm hoping I can use that to disguise the spout. It fits. See how it fits on there really nice? And if I do it, if I can get it to work this way, I have to lower it some. So I just need to kind of get something in here. I'm going to come around and look the other side. I think normally what I've seen done is that whole kind of the bubbles coming out and the sand is caught by something else and kind of brought out. So like this would be happening sort of behind the scenes. And then you won't see the bubbles. The bubbles kind of come out and go up to the top. And then the sand will pour down underneath here like so, which we can do. I could use that same rock, but instead of like jamming it right into it, although it fits perfectly and it's really neat that way, I could just kind of set it to be the thing that catches it and filters it back down, and then just kind of put something on top of it just to hide that, like so. Like so. Alright, so I've got a loose idea for what I want to do. Let's see if I can silicone some of this stuff down. I'm going to get the pieces that I've accepted here. Just taking little globs like this and kind of inserting them in an advantageous place here in the back so that this rock will hopefully stick to this glass right where I want it to be. Of course, I'll let this sit for 48 hours before I go and add anything to it. I sort of feel like I'm channeling Serpe Designs right here, but he does a much better job than I do. Alright, that was kind of looking like a pile of rocks, so what I've done is I've gone back in a little bit. I'm going to add maybe bigger selections of rocks to try and make it look a little less piecemeal, a little more cohesive. There are a lot of different colors, unfortunately. I guess that happens in nature too, and I think over time that'll calm down some, but I'm trying to make these so they match a little bit better, at least in terms of like the way they were going. Like I had it kind of go in all these directions before, and I didn't like that. I wanted to at least all the little pits and stuff to kind of be going in the same direction, so it looks more like something you might see in nature. This is a little bit brighter than the rest of it. I think over time they'll all kind of start to look the same, so that's probably not going to be too big a deal. So I think I'm going to leave it here for now. I'm going to come back to it tomorrow, maybe fill in the rest of this with substrate, and just kind of, I don't want to bump it or do anything to cause it to kind of mess up, so I'm just going to leave it alone at this point. Come back to it tomorrow. Hey, back at it again today, are we? Yeah, I had to let the silicone cure from yesterday, so it's going to be a long video. Are you sure people are going to watch it? I'm sure somebody will watch it. I'm not going to watch it. I really don't care, Charlie. I really don't. Bye. Alright, it's the next day. I've kind of poked around on this. I didn't put a lot of adhesive in the way of my little janky used bottle of silicone. I didn't do that a whole lot in here, but I got it enough to where it's pretty stable. It's not gonna shift when I go to move it, hopefully. So I think that's okay. I'm still kind of working out how I want this to be. This part of the top's really loose right now. It's just kind of hanging off the lip of this, and it might provide a space for the bubbles to go up. I'd like that to be hidden, but I'm gonna counter that by putting that as close to the top as possible, so you won't see bubbles like coming all the way up through the tank. Just kind of happening here at the top. Okay, so what about the rest of it? So I want these to be really well planted, especially on the sides, and this to be kind of a recessed thing to kind of give it depth. I don't care if the plants come all the way to the front. I don't care if they go all the way to the top. I want this to be, I'm not trying to keep this in scale or anything like that. I want it to be kind of jungled out on the sides. I've got, what plants I've got are in this small tank over here to the side. But I think once I separate those out and start pulling them apart, I think I'm going to have enough to plant up at least all the sides over here. So I want to put some good substrate in there, so just to give it a chance. I kind of started this project thinking it would be sort of temporary, but I don't know. The more and more I mess with it, you know, I never do an aquascape that's supposed to only last for a week or two, but you know, so I just can't do that, I guess. All right, so I'm going to add some red clay powder. This is more because I anticipate in the future I will probably want to add more plants that have some red. And I just like to include this on the bottom of my aquascapes nowadays. It's probably hard to see from the angle that I've got it there, but I'm just doing a really fine, just adding another element to the bottom of this. This isn't crucial by any means. I think it probably helps if you plan on having some plants that are red or something like that. I've started getting into that more and more, so I like to throw this in just in case. It won't hurt either way. The next thing I'm using is this, I've got this partial bag, because I use this all the time. I've got a partial bag of aragonite, which is crushed coral. This it helps buffer the pH a little bit. Oh gosh, that's not the way I want to do that. It's going to give me sort of a crunchy layer of substrate on the bottom. And I'm not doing a lot. Just doing a really thin layer. I've heard a lot of really good things about adding this to the bottom of the substrate. Especially when you use the soil-based products like we're about to do. And I really like the idea of I don't know, substrate lasagna, where you add different layers that kind of help in different ways. I think this is so porous that, to me, I think this will be a great environment for bacteria to develop. A lot of the old pros will tell you, and they're right, that a lot of the beneficial bacteria is in this layer. It's right here at the bottom of your aquarium. That's where a lot of beneficial bacteria is going to be stored. This will buffer the water some, but because the water's not passing through it so much, because it's going to be sitting on the bottom, it's not going to be doing a lot of that. You know, it would be maybe a little bit. It's not a huge effect. And the last element I'm bringing in, this might be a little close. I've got a bag of fluval stratum. I'm not sure what this is left over from. I've got a little spout cut here, but I think I'm going to put this in a cup. Definitely not going to risk pouring it over here. I'm just going to do this in a cup on this side. This is a really terrific substrate to plant with. I was lucky enough to have this left over from the Fluval Flora project that I just did recently. I do a lot of small tanks, so I end up with a lot of like partial bags of this stuff. Usually what you want is a pretty deep layer of this, like maybe an inch or two. I'm actually going to pour on this side, I think. See if I can pour on the side and push it around. I don't have a big messy fish room to use. I've got my house, so I have to keep things really tidy. And I don't have a floor to go pull things off of, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on your point of view. I'm sure Holly doesn't think it's unfortunate. Alright. That's quite a lot. It's going to intrude a little bit. You know, I think I'm going to make a little... rock barrier in here on the side, just to keep too much of this stuff from coming in. I'm going to keep the sand on the sand side. Fortunately, this doesn't look anything like the wall, but maybe this will be covered in plants. You won't really see it too much. Normally, perspective-wise, too, you want to go lower than higher, of course. I'll do that a little bit, but I'm going to kind of force the perspective with the way I place the plants, which is kind of another way to do it. Getting a fair amount over here. I think I'm safe as long as it doesn't get right here. I'm about to pour sand on top of this, which will kind of keep this where it needs to be, and we'll raise this up a little bit. Very carefully. Maybe let a little bit get underneath there. Just give myself a little wiggle room. Okay. All right. That doesn't seem deep enough in the front. But maybe I'll plant some small stuff in the front, so maybe that won't be too big a deal. I think I got enough stuff on both sides. Maybe put a little bit more over here. Sure got a bunch of that going that way. Yeah, I think I showed this before. I'm using Supernaturals. It's left over from... I'm trying to remember what I used this on last. Might have been the steampunk tank. I think it was the steampunk tank I used this on. Trying to keep it in there. I probably should have poured this in a bowl or a cup or something. Very carefully. Stop. Stop. Okay, sand's very difficult to handle. Okay. Spread this out over here and over here. Yeah, I'm definitely putting this in a cup. I'm hoping the waterfall doesn't just like start shooting sand like all over here, like in a place where I don't want. Maybe I'm hoping it'll be heavy enough to just kind of fall straight down. That's sort of what it appears to do in videos I've seen. All right, I'll cheat this up just a little bit. Keep kind of cheating this thing up a little bit, just to make sure I got a deep enough, that it's deep enough to work. And I know the stuff on the sides won't matter. It's all going to be about what's right here. So I'm going to make a little bit more of a pile right underneath it, just to overcompensate a bit. I have a feeling I'm going to fully aquascape this thing and then have like a moment of truth where I can see if it works, which is not the optimal way to do this. If you're going to do this at home, what I recommend is set this thing up, fill it up with water, and then test it. I don't really have time for that if I want this out by this weekend. Another time where being a YouTuber sort of trumps logical steps. That happens a lot, by the way. These guys could tell you all kinds of crazy stuff, but there's all kinds of things that we do on here because we're displaying our, we're displaying some technique or something like that. And we'd never do it this way in real life. Hey guys, so it's the next day. This is like day 3 of working on this. And so the silicone's dried on here. It hasn't been 48 hours like they recommend, but really I can't wait any longer. I'm just going to go for it now. It's been well over 24 hours, and we're working on 48 now, but not quite there. Before I go too much further with this, though, I really need to lock down some of the other stuff I'm going to put on here, like the filter, a heater if I do decide to use one, and some lights. So I went digging through the garage, and I think I found a filter. So this is an old Aqua filter that I found. I used this on one of my sister's tank. I sent my sister a tank, and then her cat kept drinking out of it or something, so I swapped her out with my 10-gallon that I had here a long time ago, and I took all the stuff back that I had set up for her. But in that video I set up this, and this is like a little wild kind of external canister filter. Let's take it apart real quick before I go too far with it. So inside, just like a canister filter, it's got a little set of chambers, and these come apart, and you see you've got like a coarse sponge, and this one's got some space and also maybe a finer sponge, and then of course the last one's empty. I believe what I'm going to do is I'm going to mostly use what I've got left over from that 10-gallon build. I poured some of this in there, and I had a little bit left over. I'm going to use some of this new Biomatrix Live Rock for filter media, and then I'm going to throw a little bit of used stuff in one of the final chambers, so it'll kind of seed the rest of the bacteria and kind of get a cycle kick-started. Of course, the hope is I've left enough room, because I did not plan this. I left enough room for this thing to fit, and also do its job. Alright. That's pretty cool. I wonder if this can go lower. Is that it? Nope, there's not really an option for that, so this is going to be what it is. Alright, looks like I've got room. Got room. This sticks down. I can hide this behind some plants. In fact, I might cheat it this way a little bit. And I can send this thing over this way. This might be a little bit splashy. It's kind of up out of the water a bit. Well, you know, I'm going to fill it up pretty much to the water line, so that probably won't be too bad. I'd like it this could be a little bit lower. Doesn't look like it goes lower. Does have flow control. It's got this looks like a little floating valve here. So this will do maybe surface skim, perhaps, if that works. Well, it's a place to start, you know, and now that this is in place, we can go ahead and aquascape the inside. Something else I found was some black tubing and a little check valve here for the waterfall. Hopefully it works. Okay, so here's the setup. I've got this tank pulled up next to this one. I'm literally going to pull the plants out of here and put them into here. Probably some of this water too. I'll recycle that water into the other tank as well.
Hello.
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 How you doing?
Just wearing all red.
We have a lot of tie-dyes lately.
Yeah.
It was a tie-dye birthday for you, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo!
Woo woo!
20!
20!
You gonna help?
No.
Good. Check this out. I've forgotten this guy was even in there. We might add him in there too, we'll see. There's something growing on him. Also, a lot of these had a lot of hair algae in it. I've cleaned it out, and it looks pretty good right now. But there was a lot of hair algae in here just like 2 days ago. So what I might do is do a little Flourish Excel dip. Like I'm going to put some Excel right here. I'm going to dip these plants in that and see if I can just use some algicide on it right before I put them into here. A little bit of water in there to dilute this. But there's really not much Excel left. I haven't used this a whole lot. Like obviously I've used this container, but I did it over a long period of time, and then I kind of stopped using it about 2 years ago after I did a little bit of research and discovered I don't like algicide. Now, for practical reasons, I'm not going to show this, but I'm going to pull the plants out of here, dip them in here, and then put them into the tank. Well, I ended up with a fair amount of, this is actually Monte Carlo, little tiny bits of Monte Carlo. So I think I might end up putting that up in the front and kind of mix it around. I want to make sure there's no algae mixed in there. It's like there's little strands of something, and that might be, it kind of looks like moss, but I don't want to take any chances. So I'm just going to set, as I encounter it, I'm just going to set it right here for a second. And I'll come back and I'll actually plant it in later. I've got quite a bit of little pieces of that. Now, the plant that was in there is crypt. There's some more of that. Is a cryptocore of some sort. And it had these sprawling root segments. I mean, so they were really elaborate root segments. I'm going to trim these back a little bit. My hope is that these won't entirely melt. You know, I'm going to take the little bit, the more scraggly ones, of course, and put them in the back. And just kind of work my way around, part of the way over here, part of the way over here. I don't have as much room over here, and I have to account for this filter, so I might do this side first. A lot of times I'll work with this dry, and you can do that. But boy, I tell you, working with this wet really makes it easier to plant in. A number of my viewers recommended that after watching a couple of my videos. I get a lot of great suggestions from viewers, and I try to abide. You know, some of them I don't agree with, but a lot of them, you know, I at least listen. I do at least listen to people. That's a little bit too many roots, so we're going to cut that back a little bit. I'll put you towards the back over here. This particular crypt hasn't been too bad for melting, knock on wood. We'll see if that stays true. Alright, now that's not nearly all we'll put over there, but I want to start on the other side just to make sure I've got good proportions here. Now, if you remember in the original aquascape that I'm pulling all these out of was the Fluval EB tank, which was another, basically a spec with a couple of extra little adaptations made to better accommodate shrimp. And I planted these inside these really cool cut off pieces of cholo wood. Like right here is one of them now. That was a really cool idea. They looked great. They made neat little planters. In fact, I might consider bringing them in here, but I didn't want to do the same thing. For one, I'd never have enough for all the plants that came up. And what happened was they grew really well inside of there, but then they started to spread, and they spread around outside of it. Boy, there's just Monte Carlo mixed in everywhere in here. All right, put you at the back, root and all. These plants get really large. They'll get too big for this tank if I let them. These are the same ones that have taken over the 27-gallon cube downstairs. I always have a lot of them, so they end up in a lot of different aquascapes because they grow so well. It's also good if you kind of want a sure thing. If you're aquascaping and you want to make sure that you get something out of it, these are usually a safe plant. Of course, now that I've said that, something will go wrong probably, but these are usually a good safe plant to use for beginners. I personally think they're really pretty. I'm going to end up with a whole lot of the same plant in here, but that's okay. Alright, I think you guys kind of get the gist of what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and finish putting all these plants in here. There's a lot more left to do, and then we'll come back. Okay, so that's got most of the crypts. A little bit splashy on the glass here. And I'm going to focus down a little lower. We're going to look at the Monte Carlo and see if I can get that put in. I'm just going to kind of spread it around, see if I can get roots down. Monte Carlo is really difficult to plant in here. In fact, I usually cheat with some rocks and stuff. I've got some really thick portions of it. I need to make sure they don't have algae hiding in them. There's no guarantee. I'm not planning on putting CO2 on this or anything, so there's no guarantee that these are going to grow and do what I want, but I've been real surprised with the stuff before. It was growing without CO2, and there's quite a bit of it. But it was going without CO2 in the tank I just pulled it out of. When it's without CO2, it's like it gets real small, real fine leaves, real spindly. You can actually put it a little bit under the substrate. It'll find its way out if it survives. Wow, there's a lot of this. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video, finish this up, and then we'll see where we're at. Okay, so here's the whole scape. Boy, I ended up with a lot of plants. Isn't that a lot of plants for a little 2.5 gallon tank, basically planted out, pretty well planted out a 10 gallon aquarium. That's how dense the plants were in that little thing. And I think, you know, I don't know if this waterfall is going to work or it's not going to work, but I thought it might be fun just to add a little bit of whimsy to help remember the 2 gallon tank this all came from. And so off to the side here, we're going to put a little totem. Kind of jam him into the sand so he'll stay. This is cool too. I found that if I have shrimp and stuff, they love to go in here and hang out. And at least for a little while, we'll be able to see them here as kind of a central decorative piece. Of course, this is coming up. This is going to go on top of the waterfall here at the end. I'm just going to set it aside for a minute. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of substrate to the sides of this, and then I think it's time we throw some water in there. I ended up with a lot of Monte Carlo. It's going to be hard to see at first, but you know, there's a fair amount of Monte Carlo in there, so if it does start to grow, we might have a nice carpet. Okay, so I've added some more stratum. Oh, that's cattywampus in it. I've added some more stratum, and I think what I need to do now is kind of get it put into place. I'm going to move this into place, and then we'll start filling it up with water. Oh, we're so close to done, guys. All right, so I'm getting the first 3 gallons of water in here. Just by letting it drip through this hose to the glass and then, you know, on into the tank. We'll see if that keeps the substrate where it ought to be. The old spec's definitely seen better days. I guess my next chore will be cleaning this. Here it is, a big foggy mess right now. Hopefully it will clear up in a little bit and start to look a little bit better. Heavily planted. Of course, I think it's heavily planted. Not a big variety of plants. I could probably should steal some Anubias or something, maybe wrap it up around here, but I really want to see how the waterfall is done. I deliberately haven't turned on the waterfall at all, because I want it to be a surprise. Go ahead and pause the video and vote and see if you think that waterfall is going to work or not. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier in the video, I used an Up Aqua light for my sisters. I had a bunch of other choices for lights, but really this was the one that was going to fit the best and probably look the nicest and work the best. I may eventually switch this up to something else once my challenge is completed. I will immediately put on a light timer. I have dozens of these because a lot of my lights are now automated, thank goodness. If you've got a planted tank and you're not using a timer, you're messing up. This is essential if your light just kind of turns on and off, to me anyway. The air pump I'm using was from a My Aquarium box. It's a little Marina 50. I have better air pumps. In fact, I was just sent these. I actually have 3 different flavors of these pumps. It didn't feel right to use like a super premium product that was mailed to me. It was mailed to me just like a week ago to use. Instead, I'm using this that was at the bottom of a Bits box. I've had this pump for, you know, probably over a year, maybe a year or 2. And we'll just see how it does. I'll be unboxing those air pumps next week, and we'll take a look at that, and maybe we'll swap this out. We'll see. I'm curious to see if this works, though. So I guess this is the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm going to plug this in and see if it works. Be sure to get your vote in. Pause the video and vote to see if it works. Ha 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 ha! Let me show you its features. Also meant to tell you I found a 50-watt heater, and I've put it in the back. Okay, no more messing around. Here we go. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Oh my goodness! It's working! Boy, it makes a lot of noise. Look at it just spurting out of that thing. I might need to push the sand around. It's kind of digging into right there. I can't believe it. I can't believe this is working. Let's pull in a little closer there. Wow, when the tank clears up, this will look really interesting. It's not quite blowing the sand everywhere. Yeah, it seems to be coming down off the rock, kind of what I anticipated there. Haha, very happy. Very happy though that it's not gonna make me cry. How cool. Yeah, the little sinkholes developing here. I'm probably gonna have to throw some more sand in, like right at the base of that, just to make sure it never empties out. How crazy. And that's not like, this is a feature I could probably turn off and turn on like every once in a while too. Maybe even add it on a timer as well. I definitely would not want it bubbling like this while I was trying to shoot a video or something like that. It's okay, yay, it works, but boy is that bubbling sound obnoxious. I'm gonna have to play with that a little bit. In fact, hold on. After the video is edited, I'll more than likely turn this back on. I'd like to run it for a little while and make sure that it looks like it's working the way I would think it should work. It's sucking down right here at the bottom, and then it's pouring the sand right back down on top of it, and then having a continuous cycle there. So I think that that's going to work. I'd have more sand, so I can always add a little bit more sand if I need to. It's also a little foggy in there, but I just filled this up with water less than an hour ago, so that's pretty typical for any aquarium. Hopefully this clears up enough to where I can get a real nice shot for you, and if so, I'll overlay it here. But just in case it doesn't, I'd like to pimp out my Instagram to you. Well, I'll be showing this off for sure next week. A lot of people ask for updates all the time on all my tanks. In fact, that's what I've been doing for the past month, is just all updates, and I've reached the end of that officially with the pond. But you can continue to learn all about my aquariums, and I have quite a few now, if you're curious, on Instagram. I'll be doing a lot more update photos and videos of those tanks as time goes on. So maybe I'm not waiting quite so long to kind of show you guys the progress I've made in different aquariums. That's all I got for you for now, but I'll be back real soon with another video. Until we meet again, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. So you watch Downton Abbey? No, I do not. Oh. Worldwide, G, worldwide. So how many days in a row are you gonna wear that shirt? You give me like 3 shirts to wear, so yeah, I'll wear the same one over and over again. You wanna wash them? I'm not gonna. Rachel O'Leary started this Scraping for Scraps, Scaping with Scraps challenge. King idea. You messed that line up. For myself, what I did is I've tried to do. Don't quote Downton Abbey to me, asshole. Bye. Okay, I can't take it. I can't take it.